Alrighty, so we are streaming and we are recording as well. I don't know if there's any audio being played from the
Logan liked the tickle challenge on my TikTok and wanted to give it a try himself. So let's give it a try. I think whoever laughs first loses. You can go.
Really? Come on. Sometimes YouTube acts like a fucking asshole. Audio being played from the doesn't look like it. So how do I? Really? Come on. Sometimes YouTube acts like a fucking asshole. Doesn't look like it. Why don't we have any sound from? Why don't we have any sound from the video device? So add a source. Display capture. Okay, so let me go back to the scene right here. Advanced audio properties. I think I'm gonna have to delete these fuckers. So let me add a new game capture with audio capture, cursor capture, third party, frame rate, yeah. Okay. The game. Audio capture. Cursor capture. Frame rate, yeah. So, guys, what is up? We're back with some Monster Hunter. It's been a while. I could focus on some of the missions. Let's see. Village quests, and then we can get to talking about not necessarily random shit, but I do not have a script or direction with what I feel or what I want to talk about. I think things have been tough, but also that's just victimizing myself and not really acting like I know what I'm doing. Yeah, you know, there's just really hard to talk when you got no direction. I am currently 22, right? I could be 23. I don't really want to do the math right now. And you know, life is pretty straightforward and handed to you at that point. I mean, I grew up in a pretty suburban area, and I didn't really have a sense of direction, to be honest with you. Only the direction that was kind of given to me. I had both my parents. I had two younger sisters, and I had a half brother that, for at least the first 8 years of my life, I didn't know nor meet. So what is life to you when you're 8? It just kind of becomes whatever your family dynamic is. I grew up very Catholic. Church every Sunday, was going to catechism and confirmation school and Saturday school, and was taught about the Lord and bullshit. And none of that ever really stuck. As much as it was handed to me, I never really believed in it. And it's not like something I was like actively fighting. But I guess in a way it felt like intuition or gut feeling where you just don't logically understand. And I've always been trying to like put the context of God in different terms, and it's shifted over the years. But again, all life is what's taught and given to you. But there's a deeper sense of you that understands that there's more to it. You know, I kind of spent part of my youth idealizing money, or in a way, maybe a certain type of status that came with money. But it never really felt like money could ever solve the problem. And yeah, that's true. Money can't solve the problem, but it allows for wiggle room to do the things that you need. So when I'm 14 years old and my family dynamic is a quote unquote middle class family that has two working parents, a father who's been working construction his entire fucking life, basically. And to be honest with you, from what I remember, I don't remember my dad being there. And I even remember a birthday where he literally showed up late to the party that like my mom had planned because he had to work that Saturday. And like I get having to do what you have to do to support your family and stuff. But I also strongly believe that if people want to have families, that they have to take better precautions to being able to support that child. Because ideally, had my father and mother prepared more financially, it could have allowed them to develop more emotionally and become better parents, in my eyes, more emotionally their parents than they actually were. And then maybe they could understand where I'm coming from when I actually get to discuss my deeper depressing thoughts. I can't be met with backlash or ridicule from people who are meant to care and want to listen. I know being a parent is hard, but I guess that's why I make the choice to not be a parent. So I go my most developed mental years of my life not building a relationship with my father because he has to support the family. And I would always appreciate that. But another part of me does not like that I am settling for what even legally would be considered the bare minimum of shelter, food, and clothes. Nowhere in the bare minimum in legality does it talk about emotional awareness. At 15, my dad offered me the ability to go work with him, or the opportunity to go work with him in construction. He was pretty high up in the management chain as a superintendent for this concrete company. So, the moment that he gets to run a job with another person that is actually my godfather, I saw it as an opportunity to connect with one, a person that I really loved, and two, a person that like I recognized. There felt like there was a family dynamic there. Again, I'm 22. Again, I'm 22. And I started working as a carpenter at 15. Now, legally, that's not allowed to happen. So, how did I do this? Well, my dad helped me get a fake ID that changed my birth year and said I was 18. And it felt like we were kind of doing something mischievous together and stuff, but it was all in hopes to be able to work alongside him, but also to make a shit ton of money. So my driving force was money and a parental father figure connection. And it was good for the first year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. We'd go from job to job and, like, he would drive in the morning and I'd get my extra sleep because, I was doing the physical labor. And then on the drive home, he'd sleep and I'd listen to my podcast or I'd listen to my music. And in those moments, in those summers, I was able to really indulge in what I liked. But even with all that time spent next to him, driving from job to job, he nor I ever deepened our relationship. And the way that I look back on it now and the conversations that we had, it never felt like he cared. He didn't ask me about my interests or what I wanted to do. They were just societal expectations of, like, you should go to college. Oh, well, if you're not going to go to college, then you should try moving up in the chain of construction. Be a superintendent, be a foreman, be a labor your entire life. And you know what? He was right about that. And I knew that at maybe the second year in that I didn't want to do the physical labor. But the money's good and I got to spend time with my dad. But again, neither one of us took that time and opportunity to deepen our connection. I didn't ask him about his childhood, though I tried a couple times and it was just kind of met with stories that he would always repeat. He's got the same 10 stories that he will repeat hundreds of times. And I think he self identifies with those stories more than what his actual life has been. I love my dad, but I think I equally hate him as much. I know I can be probably harsh on my dad, but like, my dad was also harsh on me. It boils down to perspective because it never felt like he understood my perspective. I would voice discomfort, though it might have not been the healthiest way to describe what I was feeling, or it could have been an outburst of anger or such. But he always had the same answer for that. Well, I can't talk to you because you get like this. You get aggressive, you get angry. No one can talk to you. And if that's how he feels about me, his son, does that mean that he has given up on attempting to reason or understand my emotions? To always be met with, see, you are the way that you are and you can't change, instead of, what were the series of events that led you to feel this way? Why do you feel like we can't connect? Though that is a projection from his end. He feels like we can't connect. And again, it's because he doesn't know who I am as a person. He doesn't want to. Parents are weird. So again, I start working at 15 because I want to connect with my father through construction, make money, and buy some things on the side. But what does that entail? I'm a 15-year-old who still goes to school. So I have to work on the weekends and on vacations. So for 3 consecutive summers I worked. Now I live in the Central Valley of California, working in the Bay Area of California. Now during the summer, some areas get cooler than others, some places get hotter than others, but for the most part it gets fucking hot. Getting heat stroke, getting fucking cramps. Working with men literally triple my age, talking about how much they hate their life, how much they hate their wife. It was a nasty environment to actually fucking be in. But it was the environment that my dad had always been in. So when I explained to him, excuse me, So when me, a 16-year-old who actually still doesn't know how to describe these levels of discomfort, this unsatisfaction with my job, with my life at that point. I sound like I'm already having a midlife crisis at 16. I'm met with that's just the way the world is, and I have to deal with it. And then, even up until now, I think, why is that the world that we live in? It's not. It's the one that he continues to create for himself and tries to push on to others. I explained this to him, and he just feels like that's all psychological stuff. It's too deep for him. He doesn't want to think about it. And I feel like that's the major problem with our parents' generation going into our generation. We're still being taught to not care about our neighbor, basically. Not to use fucking words from the Bible. Though, yes, it's not being specifically said that, like, hey, you hate this person over here. I couldn't work. Not even a 9 to 5. That is an actual career for people who need to support families and or have a knack for constructing things with their hands, with a team of people, with numbers. And I recognized early on that I felt like I didn't have that skill. I felt like I knew that my strengths weren't in math, that they weren't in having the drive to wake up at 3 in the morning only to drive an hour in one direction so that I can be 2 hours early to my destination of work. Because if I didn't, I would either be showing up exactly on time or always late. See, driving in the Bay Area fucking blows, dude. On a good day, it's an hour traffic everywhere. To go 21 miles is to stay in traffic for hour and a half. That was the reality my father had accepted. And at 19, that's not what I wanted to do anymore. And he didn't understand why. Again, met with, that's just the way the world works. The lack of trying to understand the sort of mental turmoil that my job was applying to me. The stress, the expectation of needing to do something different or, doing what I'm doing now at the most best of my ability. But they didn't like my answer. I didn't want to commit. Construction was shit. It wasn't for me. Now, what is for me? I don't know. That's the journey and the path of life that we're all supposed to take. I'm afraid to make the wrong decisions. I'm afraid that even if I make what I think is a wrong decision, it turns out to be the right decision. I'm scared of all decisions. Mostly because I never felt like I had any decisions to make in my life. My life was all about being a kid who did sports and went to church and believed in God and was Catholic and was going to go to college until I realized deep down those weren't the things that me wanted to do. And in a way, I was ostracized by my father, questioned. And when the answers that I provided weren't fulfilling enough, all I felt was judgment instead of a sense of curiosity for him. There is no curiosity from when we're children into adult. Who will I become in 5 years? The people I love, even around me, know that I can't plan, or maybe I refuse to plan. My excuse is that I wasn't taught to, but it is my responsibility. I don't know if it's a weird paradox to teach yourself something that you've never been taught. To teach yourself something you don't know or feel you can't fulfill. I used to have interests. Mostly the conventional ones or the societal ones that I thought would give me a position of status. Doing sports. Like being a part of a certain group of people. Making certain actions so that I would be perceived a certain way amongst my peers. To have an aesthetic, to have an archetype, to have an identity, though it is false. I don't know if my if my family has identity, because their identity lies within the fact that they had a family, as in children, the societal standard. But to me, there's nothing worth having societal standards or a moral compass that aligns with a religion if it's not beneficial to self identity or consciousness. And I guess that's the weird thing to try and explain. This idea of trying to discover purpose is different for everyone. But it feels that with the amount of people that are so unhappy, so unconscious in their actions, in their reactions, in their how do you consciously change something that you're unconscious of? How do you become aware of it? Sadly, it feels like I had to hurt the people around me in order to become aware of it. While others have the luxury of doing self work and just finding it along the way. And it's hard to not really ridicule yourself and be like, why couldn't I be that lucky? You know? There's so many contradictory contradictionary contradicting points in life. There are so many contradicting points in life. It feels fair and equally unfair at the same time. For me, understanding the universe is understanding consciousness. And to understand consciousness, I have to understand myself. I'm kind of unsure of where to go with this right now. Kind of lost. Again, I didn't really have a script.